Hello, and welcome to our first podcast. My name is Mike Clark, and co-hosting with me is
Easy Zimmerman.
And we are two wrestling fans. Not to mention, that is the name of our show. Our normal format will include news and events from around the professional wrestling world. However, this first episode, we're going to highlight and recap some of the things that happened at Wrestlemania 30.
And the big news out of Wrestlemania 30 really is that probably the best Wrestlemania in recent years, Mike.
I would totally agree. I absolutely loved this Wrestlemania. There was a lot of great matches.
I think first we want to touch on, though, the biggest news right now, and that's the passing of a legend in the Ultimate Warrior.
That was very sad news to hear when I got up this morning. Watching his Hall of Fame speech, seeing him on Monday Night Raw really kind of made me think that he had gone through and made amends with all the people that he had issues with in the past. It was really good to see him. I thought he was really finally in a very good place in his life with all of those issues.
Absolutely. His speech at the Hall of Fame was nothing more than a motivational speech for everybody out there listening. Even called out some of the up-and-coming rising stars. No surprise to anybody, as with anybody, he was one of my childhood heroes growing up. I read the news last night, actually off of Zack Ryder's Instagram, and I immediately had to go over and check on WWE.com and confirmed it. I texted you first thing last night to let you know, and then to confirm it all this morning. It was just really heart-wrenching, and it was sad. And I'm telling you, I walked into work today, and that was just the news. Hey, did you hear Ultimate Warrior passed away today? And everybody just really in a kind of a mournful mood about the whole thing.
Right, yeah. When I walked into work this morning, even people who don't pay attention to pro wrestling, who think pro wrestling is a silly thing, came up to me like first thing in the morning. Did you hear about the Ultimate Warrior? I'm like, yes, I did. It's a very sad day. And they were like, yeah. Even people who didn't watch pro wrestling would tell me about how they knew who the Ultimate Warrior was because they watched him when they were kids. So, I mean, he has definitely touched millions, if not billions, of people.
Absolutely. And our hearts and prayers and thoughts go out to the Warrior family here from Two Wrestling Fans. Let's go on to talk about WrestleMania 30, and probably the biggest news topic would be the streak
and the end of it.
Absolutely. Needless to say, I was one of many of 80,000 fans that were in attendance. Was shocked at the fact that Undertaker lost at WrestleMania 30.
I was very surprised by that. As you know, when we watch pay-per-views, we always make picks. And when it comes to WrestleMania, I always pick against The Undertaker to lose. Especially the last few matches with Shawn Michaels, Triple H, CM Punk. I thought there was a legit chance he could lose. But I mainly did that to get your goat going and get you going.
Absolutely.
But this year, I actually took Taker because there was no way that Brock was going to win. I didn't think he would.
And unbeknownst to us, several years ago, 3 years maybe, The Undertaker actually made a comment that the person he wanted to defeat him and to beat that streak would be Brock Lesnar.
It's funny because that's one of the best kept secrets in all of professional wrestling, which is something you don't get is secrets that get kept.
There's merely rumor, and nobody's been able to verify this that I know of, that there's really only a few people that knew about it. Brock Lesnar, Undertaker, Vince McMahon, and the referee.
Right.
And I think it's validated when the camera cut to Paul Heyman and to see his look was just as genuine as everybody else in the arena.
I think Paul Heyman was maybe more shocked than everybody else in the arena.
I think so too. And I have to say, a huge Undertaker fan, always have been, always will be. A lot of people didn't like the badass era of The Undertaker. Mm. And I was a fan through and through, always have been since the debut at Survivor Series. But I'm going to have to say this, that if this was what Undertaker really wanted, and this potentially could be his last match, which nobody knows yet. I know there's the talk of his injury, possible concussion, severe concussion. Then you have to kind of let the guy have what he wants, his last wish, if you will.
Yeah, you have to respect his last wish as a pro wrestler.
And I read that as a pro wrestler going out, you always try to put somebody over. Yep. You always try to give somebody that last push. And Undertaker's always been willing to work with new talent to give him that push. And as much as I don't like Brock Lesnar, I'll tell you, that says something to the mentality and to the
ethic
of the Undertaker.
Right.
So kudos to him.
Right. Granted that Brock is not a new talent anymore.
No.
But to me, if you're going to end the streak, I don't really know that using a new talent is the best way to end that streak.
Absolutely. And here's the thing with that. You've got Brock Lesnar on a part-time contract.
Right.
So now does the WWE sign him to a more regular basis style contract?
I think he'll still keep the kind of contract he has. I think he'll still be a part-time wrestler. He'll show up for like the big events, getting fused with big names. But yeah, he's not going to become a full-time wrestler.
Well, if they do, now's the time to sign that contract.
Now would definitely be the time.
So let's go on. The second probably biggest story out of WrestleMania 30 would be Daniel Bryan becoming the new heavyweight.
Yes.
Put your arms down, Mike. Yes, we're all fans. We get it. Yes Movement lives on.
Yes Movement does live on.
At the behest of Triple H and Authority. So what's your take on Daniel Bryan here, Mike?
Well, I got to be honest with you. I've been a Daniel Bryan fan since the first time I've ever watched him. Been a huge Daniel Bryan fan. But the storyline with him and Triple H since last SummerSlam it started to get stale. And I found myself not really against Daniel Bryan, but not as into him as much as what I've always been. But then WrestleMania starts coming around, and now I can see the end result of this long storyline. And I started getting back into the whole Daniel Bryan thing and really getting back into his character and liking him again. And it was very deserving that he finally got the title.
I couldn't agree with you anymore, Mike. The storyline kind of fizzled out a little bit, and at times I kind of find myself saying, just end it already. And then as we drew closer to WrestleMania 30, you have the Yes Movement that took over Raw.
Oh, yeah, the Raw takeover was phenomenal.
It was just something that you're just in awestruck of what took place. And I'm finding myself calling Triple H names just to say yes to take this match at WrestleMania 30. I mean, what more do you have to do? And then, he does kind of man up and take that match.
Yeah, I honestly thought that Daniel Bryan was going to win against Triple H, but somehow Triple H was going to weasel his way and make the main event a four-way.
Almost happened when he came down to the ring at the end.
Yeah.
And interfered, if you will. But again, it no good to him because Daniel Bryan comes out the victor.
And looking stronger than ever.
Absolutely. So congratulations to Daniel Bryan there. I'd say, again, going on with WrestleMania 30 recap, look at Cesaro as the inaugural winner of the Andre the Giant Battle Royal.
Right. There's definitely been a push for Cesaro here in the last several months. It is no secret. He's been the main reason the fans have gotten behind the Real Americans, and they stand up and do the salute and everything. When he and Swagger had their falling out in the pre-show after the match, you knew something good was going to happen with him. I got to admit, I didn't even realize he was in the Battle Royal when our friend Bruce picked Cesaro, and I wrote Cesaro's name down on the paper. For whatever reason, it still didn't click to me that Cesaro was in the Battle Royal.
Well, let's talk about the fact that Jack Swagger was not.
Right. Who I was a little surprised by that. I mean, that would have been a great thing to put both of them in there. You had that instant rivalry during a battle royal. Great things could have happened.
And you start that little heat that would later ignite on Raw, which we'll cover later on.
Right.
But I have been a big fan of Cesaro ever since he came in. And
oh yes,
and
yes.
He's the Swiss Superman. I call him that constantly, and his feat of strength is mind-boggling.
Picking up the Big Show
And
to eliminate him over the top rope was impressive. I've heard the commentators on numerous times say, pound for pound, Cesaro is the strongest man in the WWE. After seeing that feat of strength, I completely 100% agree with that.
Absolutely. I think we're going to see big things from Cesaro.
I think we are too. I think Cesaro's got a very bright future.
Absolutely. Well, the Hall of Fame obviously culminates or starts the weekend for WrestleMania. And, I sent you my text Friday, happy WrestleMania weekend, bub, and getting ready for the weekend to come. So let's talk a little bit about the Hall of Fame and some of the speeches we heard. First up, it seems like the last couple of years we've had divas, kind of like a divas.
Right, started with Trish Stratus.
Right, coming in and being part of, inducting a diva in. So we get Lita. There's no real, silence about the fact that she's had some iffy moments in the WWE in front of the camera and behind the camera.
Yes.
So, it was good to see her get inducted, I think.
I think she deserved it. As part of Team Extreme, she did great things. Yep. She really, like they mentioned, revolutionized what women can actually do in the ring.
Absolutely, and her and Trish Stratus had many great matches.
Probably the greatest female rivalry in all of WWE history.
Absolutely. It was, I have to say, it was good to hear some of the stories that Lita told at Hall of Fame, but it got a little too drawn out.
Yeah. I enjoyed hearing some of those stories, but I was sitting there going, I could write a book with all this stuff that she's saying.
Absolutely. And I kind of felt like some of the fans, she paused a couple times because I thought the fans were almost booing her off the stage.
Right, yes.
So
I think that there was something going on that we couldn't see behind the camera.
Absolutely.
That is why the fans were booing.
I didn't know she had that Rey Mysterio kind of had a hand down in Mexico.
Right, I did not know that.
Yeah, so it was good to see that.
Yeah, that was really neat to hear that story. I really enjoyed that story.
Absolutely. Let's talk about one of your all-time favorite wrestlers.
Okay, let's do it.
Jake the Snake Roberts.
Jake the Snake Roberts, the master of the DDT, the master of ring psychology.
Absolutely. Wrote the book, as DDP said.
Yes.
As he said. His speech, emotional. Me and you both have talked many times about his addiction to cocaine and to drugs and to alcohol. I know that I've seen him a couple different times on different channels talking about how he came back to find himself and come to Christ, if you will, and then only to fall down that slippery slope again. And we have everything to thank in DDP for opening his house to him and starting this DDP yoga with him. And we get the speech that we got Saturday night.
Yeah. It broke my heart when I saw Jake the Snake Robertson be on the mat. That movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then he talked about some of the things that we saw in that movie and things we didn't see in that movie in his speech. And I have to be honest with you, I'm sitting here listening to him talk, and I really thought it sounded like it was a suicide note. And that broke my heart to hear that. But then I was very happy there towards the end of his speech when he turned it around and talked about how suicide would not be an option for him. He could not do that to his daughters. And it turned into more of a feel-good speech. So there were some rough points there in his speech, but it ended up, in the end, being a good one. But it was very emotional.
There's nothing like seeing a man like him up on stage and getting choked up and teared up. And you're sitting there, I'm sitting there watching the Hall of Fame speech, and you're just sitting there just kind of hoping that you don't end up getting as choked up as he did. And, he has a lot of great matches that we go back and we can look on, and you've got those rivalries that we watched as kids growing up.
Oh, yeah.
And you just sit there and you just see the man in front of you that once was deteriorated and beat up and ready to call it quits, if you will, and now has found a new lease on life,
yes.
reunited with his children, and as a friend in DDP that opened his house and said, come in here and we're going to help you.
Yes, that speaks volumes to DDP, and if DDP is not inducted into the Hall of Fame next year, it is a Travis Sham mockery.
Absolutely, and that there's a connection with DDP, Jake the Snake Roberts, and then the next person we'll talk about, Scott Hall.
The bad guy.
Absolutely, Razor Ramon, inducted in the Hall of Fame, and also found clean via DDP.
Yes, another. I mean, that just speaks volumes to what DDP has been able to do, and because I really didn't think Scott Hall would make it to WrestleMania. The last time I saw him, before he went to DDP's house, he was in a wheelchair. DDP and Jake the Snake Roberts were wheeling him in the airport. He was bloated. He did not look good at all. He looked like he was on his last leg. And to see how he looked at the Hall of Fame, you could see the life back in his face. He has an enjoyment now for life. He looks good. He is turned around.
What do you expect out of a bad guy?
Right.
Always look good.
Always.
Always sporting the chains. Always dressed to the nines. I mean, after all, we do call him El Jefe.
El Jefe. I loved his outfit.
Absolutely.
The whole white with the black.
Absolutely.
It was great.
He was good. And I have to say, out of the people that I wanted to go long, he was one that did not, and I would have so much enjoyed hearing stories come from him about Big Daddy Cool, Diesel, and Kevin Nash, and Shawn Michaels. But on the flip side of that coin, we did get a Click reunion.
We did get a Click reunion. It was great to see Kevin Nash induct him, and then it was awesome to see at the end when the whole Click came out and just stood there and welcomed him into the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely, that was awesome. Let's talk about Mr. T. He's got a hand in start of WrestleMania.
Right, part of the start of the whole rock and wrestling revolution that happened.
Absolutely, the feud between him and Roddy Piper and Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff with Hogan at his side, just a great feud, and I found myself a couple of days prior to WrestleMania watching WrestleMania 3 and going back and reliving that. Was just awesome. I have to say, from his speech, as a Christian individual, as a God-fearing man myself, I was pleased to see and hear him offer a prayer. Great to hear that the struggles in his life and how he overcame that with the help of his mother and his many sisters and brothers. It was at the time when he kind of got interrupted, he was getting to that climactic point, and I found myself a little bit more enthused as at the beginning, and it was slow rolling, kind of tuned him out, but I would have liked to hear what was to follow that, because I think we were getting into the point of where he was brought into wrestling, where he was part of the A-Team, where he's part of that rock and roll evolution, rock and wrestling evolution, and I just would like to hear it. Unfortunately, we'll never know.
Well, I'm sure we will know eventually. I think he said that he was going to post his whole speech online somewhere, but the sad thing is there's only a certain allotted amount of time for the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
I mean, yes, it was on the WWE network, and they own it, and yeah, they could have said, hey, we can go as long as we want, but the fact of the matter is they're at a venue, they're at a place where they maybe only had a certain amount of time that they could actually hold this event.
Yep.
So, even though he wanted to say a lot of things that he wasn't able to say, Kane kind of came out, rushed him off the stage, we got to move the show on. I understand that. And he's going to post his whole speech, so anybody who wants to hear what he didn't get to say will be able to go online and read it.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about Paul Bearer, the late, great Paul Bearer. He was inducted as well. And a lot of people are saying that he was probably an integral part in what the Phenom became.
Oh, yeah, I think without Paul Bearer, there would not still be an Undertaker.
It's a good possibility. I kind of like to think that his in-ring abilities spoke for himself, and I would like to think that itself would have probably carried the Undertaker. But with that being said, you added a level of mystique and mysteriousness to the Undertaker with Paul Bearer.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Paul Bearer added anything to the Undertaker's in-ring ability, but what Paul Bearer did was added to the character of the Undertaker and made the character of the Undertaker what the character became.
And not to mention, he was a bridge between several storylines with the Undertaker.
Yes.
Undertaker and Kane, Undertaker and Mankind. So it was good. It was good to see his boys accept on their father's behalf. And
yes, I was really hoping the Undertaker was going to come out and accept it for him because Kane was inducting him, and I was a little surprised that it was Kane and not the Undertaker inducting him. But
I agree.
But then the Undertaker came out there at the end, and in typical Undertaker fashion, gave his tribute, his wordless tribute, which the Undertaker has done on many times to many great superstars that have fallen. He'll come out and just doesn't say a word, whether he just sets the urn in the ring or whether he does the kneel down on one knee thing. That's what the Undertaker does. That's how the Undertaker pays tribute. And I thought it was nice. I thought it was a classy touch. I wasn't disappointed after he came out that his sons accepted it and it wasn't the Undertaker. I think the Undertaker's tribute was perfect.
I couldn't agree with you anymore. Let's talk about, obviously, the Ultimate Warrior speech. Your take?
Yes. The Ultimate Warrior speech. Wow. Something I never thought I would see happen.
Absolutely. I mean, there's been that bad blood for a while.
Right.
That DVD that came out that he alluded to a couple times that the WWE has produced.
The self-destruction of the Ultimate Warrior.
Absolutely. And there was not some nice things that were
there was not
mentioned on that.
No.
It was good to see him to bury the hatchet. I was a little taken aback as to why Linda McMahon inducted him until he came out and expressed why.
Right, and then it all made sense.
It all made sense, so I was glad to see that. Again, I mentioned before it was more of a motivational speech than it was anything else. And that's what he does. That's what he did do. He was a motivational speaker. And I think even though it lasted almost an hour, or right at an hour, I think it was a great thing to see, and it was good to see him.
I thought so too. There were some parts where I was like, okay, wrap it up, and then he would move on to something else, and I was like, oh, wait, what are you talking about now? And he had me again. He just had me, and I just wanted to hear more about what he was saying.
I know some professional speakers like that they call it rabbit chasing. You get off on a tangent and you go somewhere else, and then you come back to your original speech. And some of the points he made was just was marvelous. The way he was saying and how he was aiming at the general population or public there, and at the superstars. And I also want to say that to see the pride that his daughters had for him. There was just was tremendous to see out of a couple of young kids.
I'm not going to lie to you, that moment there really kind of hit me because, I'm a father of two daughters, and I would love to have that moment where my daughter, I actually did something that my daughters were able to be there for me to celebrate doing that, and just to see that pride. I mean, and that part of his speech, more than anything, is what choked me up.
Absolutely. It was something else. Well, let's talk about the Monday Night Raw following WrestleMania. Always a big Monday Night Raw, a Raw that WWE kind of starts with a clean slate. I think you said earlier when we were talking about getting ready to start this podcast and start new storylines and character development.
And one thing you can count on about the night after WrestleMania Monday Night Raw is the crowd.
Oh, that crowd was off the chart.
Off the chain. Oh my goodness.
It was they were chanting things that had nothing to do with wrestling.
Right.
And
it was great.
I could tell that Michael Cole, Jerry the King Lawler, and JBL were having to yell
Yes.
to be heard at ringside.
Yes. There was one thing that I wanted to say about the crowd was I wondered how long it would take to get a CM Punk chant going.
Right.
It took 1 minute and 20 minutes before the first CM Punk chant broke out.
Absolutely.
Which I thought was pretty remarkable that it took that long. And then you had AJ come out, and they were, of course, chanting it when she was out there. But one of the big things about Monday Night Raw was some of the returns that we saw.
Absolutely. So, why don't you start off? What was one of the big returns for you?
One of the big returns that I was excited about was seeing Bad News Barrett come out.
Oh, he's got some bad news for us.
He does have some bad news for us, and his bad news is that he is now in the ring performing.
Absolutely.
I'm not sure why he hasn't been in the ring. He's just been up on his podium. Maybe they're just, getting people to get onto that character. But seeing him in the ring was great. I absolutely loved it, and the crowd was crazy for him.
Absolutely. I missed the seeing him. In essence, I took it as him loading the elbow when he took it and it turns red, and then just absolutely devastate his opponent.
I love that.
Good
the
to see
hammer.
The bullhammer elbow. It was good to see it back. It was good to see him back in the ring. One of the NXT people back when NXT had its own show. One of the big names that came out of Nexus that I was actually, looking forward to watching on their own when they broke up.
Right, Bad News Barrett. It escapes me right now who was his mentor in NXT. But yeah, he was somebody to watch. There's a lot of talk about he could become a heavyweight champion. Maybe now he's on it. Maybe now this is his time. One thing I wanted to ask you about Bad News Barrett. So is his "I've got some bad news for you"? Is that going to be his lifetime catchphrase like Scott Hall's "Hey yo"?
You know what? I think it fits his persona perfectly. It seemed like a lot of times when he was on his podium and he had his gavel and he was, clacking it on the podium in front of him, it seemed like when he would say it, he genuinely had some laughter and got a kick out of it.
Yeah.
I would hope that he keeps that around.
Yeah, I do too, because he looked like he had a blast on Monday night.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let's talk about RVD returning to the ring.
Big one.
He's been on hiatus.
Right there.
Yeah, been on hiatus for a while. I don't think it was injury related. I think he just wanted some time off.
Right. Yeah, he's got like the Brock Lesnar contract now.
Yeah, absolutely. He comes back, faces Damian Sandow Monday night, and Damian, comes out, man on fire. Looks like he's trying to tell somebody backstage, "Hey, don't bury me quite yet," but ultimately finds his fate in a 5-star.
Right.
And we welcome back RVD to the squared circle.
Yes. It didn't matter who RVD was going to face. They were going to lose.
Absolutely.
My only problem with the whole RVD coming back thing was the way he came out to the ring. They introduced him before they even played his music. I think it would have been a much better effect had they just not said anything and then just RVD's music pops. I think they would have got a much bigger crowd reaction out of it. Absolutely.
I think it's kind of a homage to the fact that Rodriguez would come down first. And of course, Rodriguez is not with them.
Right.
And now, so they were just kind of playing off of that. But I'm with you. It would have been a lot better. You would have heard a crowd just go insane. Blow up.
Right.
It was awesome.
Right. So one of the things that I thought about Monday Night Raw, one of the big things, was the fact that we got introduced to 4 new NXT people.
Absolutely, up and comers. They've, if you will, the baseball terminology, they've gotten the call from the dugout to come up to the big leagues.
Yes, we saw the 2 promos, one for Bo Dallas, one for Adam Rose. Still not sold on Bo Dallas though. They tried to bring him up at the Royal Rumble a couple years ago. Didn't work out so well. I hear different things that, some people say he's doing really good in NXT. Others are saying, it's still the same Bo Dallas. I guess only time will tell. I'm not a believer yet.
Well, it may take you some time to become a believer, but I can only hope for him that he has the success that his brother's having right now.
Exactly.
For those of you who don't know, he comes from a steep line in wrestling history. His brother's Bray Wyatt, and dad is Erwin R. Shyster,
Mike Rotunda,
and their uncle, Barry Windham, to which is Bray Wyatt, I believe, part of his real name is, around Windham, or is part of Windham. So, so he's got some ties there, and I can only hope for his sake that he hits that hot streak that Bray's hitting right now with the Wyatt family.
Right. Well, another one of the NXT superstars that we got introduced to was Alex Rusev.
Oh,
big guy. Big guy.
The Bulgarian Brute.
I'm not 100% sold on him yet either.
No, I have to say I got kind of dry on the whole. Him and Lana would come out at the top of the stage and would just stand there and talk, and nothing happened.
Right.
I was ready to see him in the ring, and then when he stepped in the ring, I felt like I was getting ready to watch a UFC fight, not a wrestling match. And but for a big guy, I'm telling you, he's got some moves.
He does have some moves. I'm very interested to see what he can do later on down the road. As JBL said, wait till you see until he gets up against a bigger name. Interested to see that. One of the things I passed over was the debut vignette of Adam Rose.
Absolutely, Adam Rose is kind of an up and comer in NXT. We did see his that one match that he was in at the initial NXT live show on the network.
Yes,
was not. I didn't really pay a lot of attention to him because, like you said earlier, didn't register, wasn't sure. In fact, Monday night I had to Google who he was. After that and reading some things online, I've got
talent.
Yeah, guy's got talent. I'm interested to see what this guy's going to do.
He's definitely got talent. I'm really interested to see if his character is going to work. It might not. He may be another Fandango.
It might be. Let's talk about the biggest one, and that'd be Paige.
Yes.
Coming out Monday Night Raw, and what we thought was going to be congratulations, AJ, only to turn around and to win the Divas title.
Paige is probably the one superstar, at least the diva, from NXT that the crowd has been clamoring for. They want to see Paige. Paige is something special. And everybody's been wanting her to come up for so long. Now she's finally come up to the main roster. Her first match, she wins the Divas title from AJ Lee, who held it for 295 days.
Yeah, we'll never see 296.
That's no small feat, though.
No.
295, longest reigning Divas champion, and they picked Paige to be the one to beat her. I say that says something about what they see in Paige.
Absolutely, and I see it too. I mean, go back and watch some NXT matches with her and Emma.
Yes, that one with her and Emma. Yeah, that one they did on the NXT special.
Absolutely. Both of those young ladies have got some great talent, and I'm looking forward to see what Paige is going to bring to this Divas division. And I think it's growing by leaps and bounds with the oncome of True Divas that they've got, bring a little bit more backstage insight to what happens with the diva, and then the talent in of itself. You got Cameron, who I think is just an athletic prowess, is just off the charts, and you've got AJ Lee, who has really brought some new moves in with the Black Widow lock that she's got.
I love that lock.
Absolutely. I mean, who wouldn't, right?
For a couple different reasons.
Right. Well, let's talk about Paul Heyman's promo.
Oh, I absolutely loved his promo. I thought it was fantastic. Classic Paul Heyman right there.
Absolutely. And from an Undertaker fan, as much as it pained me to hear it, he knocked it out of the park.
He did.
It was huge. It was just something that only Paul Heyman could have said.
Yes, I don't think there's anybody else that could have done that.
I would have probably thrown something through my TV if it would have been Brock Lesnar right there talking at. But, he brought up some good points. In that, the fact that Brock Lesnar is the one. And we're not talking about just the one in 21-1, but he is the one to beat. And even alluded to how everybody backstage was telling him or Brock Lesnar, well, I could have done it. But in classic Paul Heyman fashion, he said, you didn't, though. So you've got that promo that just was, I think, I'd give it a 10.
Oh, I'd give it a 10 out of 10. It was incredible. And my favorite part of that whole promo was a lot of the things he said, but I actually laughed during a Paul Heyman promo because Paul Heyman was very funny when he said that Brock was the one in the 21-1, and then he says, oh, I forgot where we're at. Brock Lesnar. And then proceeded to say the whole thing again, very slow for the audience. Not that that's not been done before in pro wrestling, but the way he did it, I don't know. I laughed pretty hard at that one.
Paul Heyman's always been a clown, if you will. Back in the WCW days when he came out and he carried that brick-style cell phone.
Big old cell phone.
And then going into ECW. And, I mean, he can draw heat to a match. And he can draw heat from a crowd. And did it in Paul Heyman style. I know Sunday we alluded to the fact that there was potential new Paul Heyman guy.
Right.
Monday we found out who the new Paul Heyman guy was.
And it was Cesaro, the King of Swing.
Absolutely. The Swiss Superman. I will say I did not see that coming.
I kind of saw it coming, but was still a little bit surprised. As soon as Cesaro said, I am not a Zeb Coulter guy, I knew. You just knew then. But up until that point, I kind of thought that it would be a very good pairing, but I didn't think the WWE would actually have to be, let's be frank, I didn't think the WWE had the smarts to put those two together.
Well, and to be honest with you, looking at it, on paper, yes, it's a great matchup. Looking at it in front of me, I'm thinking it's like The Odd Couple, the TV show The Odd Couple. I'm like, this does not match up for me. But you go from Zeb Coulter to somebody that's now more of a one-on-one type advocate. I think Cesaro is going to get that big push, and we're going to see some big things out of Cesaro from Paul Heyman's camp.
Yes, because Cesaro has talent out the wazoo. And he needs somebody like Paul Heyman to help him get the pushes that he deserves from a backstage point of view. And I think Paul Heyman is just... Look at the people Paul Heyman chooses to align himself with. Let's not talk about Curtis Axel. But look at the rest of the people he aligns himself with. They go on to do bigger and better, great things. I think Cesaro, by WrestleMania next year... If he is not the champion at WrestleMania defending the title, he will have held the title before WrestleMania next year.
I couldn't agree with you more. Let's talk about Cesaro's in-ring ability and just his overall power. Sunday night when he won the inaugural invitation, looked like he struggled to pick up that new trophy, which was beautifully designed.
After picking up the Big Show.
Right. It seemed like he had a little trouble picking that up. I'm thinking this is something nice that's going to have. I saw the plate on the front where they're going to inscribe everybody's name on it, only to have it completely and utterly bashed into thousands of pieces by Jack Swagger.
Right. And I got to think that was a prop trophy, and that the real trophy is sitting in Cesaro's basement or something. But still, the fact that they did enough with it to make it look like it was that heavy.
Absolutely.
Was pretty cool. And my question now is Cesaro going to be a face with Paul Heyman managing him? And if so, what are you going to do with Paul Heyman and Brock Lesnar? Is it possible for a manager to manage a face and a heel? If not, are they going to somehow turn Swagger and Zeb face?
Here's my thought on that, and it's simply this. A lot of people have been getting up standing up with Zeb Coulter, placing your hand over your heart, and with a loud, firm voice chant, "We the people." So I'm going to think that Jack Swagger and Zeb Coulter are going to be your face in this upcoming feud. And Jack Swagger's been face before, been heel before. I have to say I kind of like him as both. He's not going to be that Stone Cold or The Rock where no matter where he's a heel or he's a face, they're going to chant for him. But nonetheless, I think he's going to be the baby face in this feud. And I think you're going to see Cesaro, the King of Swing, become the heel.
Be interesting to see where they're going to go with this because I'm not sure I'm going to buy Zeb and Swagger as faces, but we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. End of Raw.
The end of Raw. I tell you what, I love the Shield. I have loved the Shield since day one. They have been bucking the system as of late. Their WrestleMania match.
Would you say you believe in the Shield?
I believe in the Shield 100%. Yes.
Well, you've got they kind of get us because they teeter back and forth. You see him in the office with Stephanie McMahon,
yeah,
and with the director of operations, and she simply asked them, Triple H cannot become champion tonight unless we're all on the same page. And she turns to Kane. Do I make myself clear? And Kane, without a hesitation, yep, I'm clear. She has to ask Shield twice. And then you've got what I think is becoming the mouth now of the Shield, Roman Reigns, simply says Crystal. They go out and they show their true colors, which to me is fine because they're all about injustice. And what do you think? Do you think Daniel Bryan has become a victim of a little bit of injustice?
Well, it was definitely an injustice to him at the end of Monday Night Raw. He was supposed to go out and have a one-on-one title match with Triple H. What happens to him? He gets RKO'd. He gets the Batista Bomb. He gets the choke slam. That's a lot of injustice there. And then Triple H wants to come out now and have the title match. There's a lot of injustice going on there. And if the Shield sees an injustice, then they're going to, the problem is they have to figure out what the injustice is. Right now, they're using a lot of the heel tactics that people are using. The heels are doing the injustice. Before, it was the faces that were doing the injustice. I kind of like them really as heels, but I'm really starting to grow. This whole face turn is really starting to grow on me, and I hope it's not going to lead to some sort of a split between the Shield just yet.
Right, and us as fans, we're accepting to the Shield's face turn and getting behind them. I'm telling you, there was a time I thought that we were going to see the split of the Shield. Dean Ambrose seemed to do his thing, and you had Seth Rollins that was the glue, as they put it.
Walked out.
Yeah, the cohesive part. They both kind of walked out. They both, now all three have come back together and have become the cohesive unit and destruction force that was the Shield when they first came on scene. And I'm very big. I've always been a big Shield fan, and it's just I can't wait for their big push. I'm with you. I'd hate to see them break up real soon, but I'm also interested to see what they're going to do singles wise.
Right. Yeah. Because as much as I would like to see them be like the Fabulous Freebirds and go their whole life as a 3-man group, I think they're going to go on to bigger and better things once they eventually split up. I just don't think now is the time for them to split up. I think maybe you keep them around. I would love to see them next year at WrestleMania as the Shield in a match. And then maybe, SummerSlam of next year, start the breakup. I think there could be a lot of good things that they could do. There's a lot of crazy storylines that I get up in this old noggin of mine of how and why you could keep the Shield together.
Absolutely. And there was a time I thought that some of the members of Shield were kind of outgrowing Shield.
Yes.
Roman Reigns, he's become probably a standout star. At first I thought it was Dean Ambrose. Seth Rollins got some talent. I mean, right. I'm not taking any talent away from anybody. And then you've all of a sudden got Roman Reigns that I thought was in the back spotlight there on the back burner. And now all of a sudden he has come around with the Superman punch and the spear and has actually been just 100% a standout star for the Shield, and they've all kind of brought them back together and become a cohesive unit again.
Right.
Well, that also can possibly lead to what might be a match at Extreme Rules. There is talks of a potential 3-man tag team match with the Shield versus, wait for it, Evolution.
I think that would be a really cool match. I would love to see an Evolution reunion. I was a big fan of them. But I got to go a different way with it. I don't think we're going to see a 6-man tag match.
Okay, what's your thinking?
I think we're going to see an 8-man tag match. I think it's going to be basically the evolution of Triple H, Randy Orton, Batista, but we're going to see Kane involved in it. And then it's going to be the Shield and Daniel Bryan on the other side of the ring. And my thoughts on this is, if you're taking Daniel Bryan's 3 main antagonists right now, and you throw them in another match, but let's face it, the Extreme Rules pay-per-view is less than a month away. Mm-hmm. So, are you going to start a new feud with somebody else than Daniel Bryan? And if so, who is it going to be? Because I don't think if you're going to take Kane out of the equation for the 8-man match, I don't think Kane and Daniel Bryan could headline a pay-per-view. So I think we're going to see an 8-man match.
And I think that would be a heck of an 8-man tag match with all parties involved. It'll be over the top. I think it would be something that we'll all be anxious to see. Mm. The next thing you just kind of have to think is, what will the stipulation be? Will there be a stipulation? All men, all at once, Extreme Rules, everything goes, or maybe even Hell in a Cell match or cage match. You never know.
You never know. I got my money on it. It'll be an Extreme Rules match since it is Extreme Rules, and it'll probably be the main event. But you never know. You never know what they're going to do.
Well, let's talk about a big rumor that floated around all of WrestleMania. This guy was in New Orleans during WrestleMania. He was seen at something I didn't even know existed called WrestleCon.
I didn't either, but we're going to go.
Absolutely. We got to check out and see what this WrestleCon is about. Well, let's talk about a man they call Sting.
Yes, the Sting rumors happen every year at WrestleMania for the past several years now. This year, there seemed to be a little truth to the rumors. There was the rumors going around that Sting has actually signed with the WWE. There are rumors that they were going to do the vignettes at WrestleMania or Monday Night Raw. There were rumors that possibly Sting may even show up at WrestleMania or Monday Night Raw. And this was all done so that they could set up the WrestleMania 31 match between The Undertaker and Sting, which I think would be a really cool match to see, because two kind of characters who are very similar in that darker kind of, one's got the supernatural powers, the other's just kind of taps into the whole, do I say crow thing? But that's kind of what he's been riding on ever since he went to the black and white. It would be neat to see those two characters collide, especially at a WrestleMania, which would draw huge.
I couldn't agree with you anymore. And this year, we find ourselves every year talking about the Sting rumors. And like you said, this year seemed like they had a little bit more weight to them. There's talks about him being in New Orleans. I think there were even a rumor that he was backstage at some point in time. And we're all just kind of waited with bated breath to find out when we see the Sting vignette or see him appear on a show.
Right.
And so now I think it becomes a waiting game. Sting, if you happen to, for some reason, stumble on this podcast, I want to tell you, your draw to the WWE will be huge. And we all cannot wait to see you at an event.
Oh, I can't wait. I hope he actually does come to the WWE. I can't imagine Sting ending his career without ending it in the WWE, the biggest company in pro wrestling.
And it would be a feather in the WWE's cap. I mean, it was somebody that I think they wanted to go after when they bought WCW and bring him on board. unfortunately, he didn't want that, and he went off and he got into TNA and did his thing. And don't get me wrong, he drew for TNA as well. But now it'll be a feather in their cap. Bury those hatchets, and let's get Sting in a WWE ring.
Yes, a lot of hatchets being buried, so maybe this is another one that can be buried.
Absolutely. Well, this is going to end our podcast, our first podcast. We thank you for tuning in. Just real quick, we want to tell you that by the next podcast, we're going to have a Facebook page up. We're going to have a Twitter account, email account, all set up for Two Wrestling Fans. We ask that you guys follow all of that. And if you have any critiques for us, by all means, we'll listen to them. If you have any questions, we'll try to answer them within our next podcast. Or if you have any tips or any rumors that you hear, let us know. We want to try to incorporate the fans, at least highlight a couple of fans every podcast that we possibly can. So when we get that up and running, we'll make sure we'll let you know what exactly all the handles will be. We'll let you know what the Facebook page name will be, and we hope that this takes off. So tell all your friends, tell all of your friends' friends, tell mom and dad if they're wrestling fans that, hey, this is a place to get all your pro wrestling news, rumors, entertainment, highlights, recaps, and all the good, fun stuff that you won't hear at any place else. So with that being said, this is Easy Zimmerman.
Mike Clark.
And we are
Two Wrestling Fans.